Today on the show, strategy plus action equals collaboration instead of competition.
Great coaches and consultants like you have the ability to change people's lives and transform entire organizations. And your impact can often go far beyond the clients you work with. One of the reasons I love working with coaches and consultants is because of that ripple effect. This show is here to highlight your expertise and empower you with resources and new ideas to grow your business. Welcome to Strategy in Action.
Priscilla McKinney is on the show today, and my goodness, we have a just fantastic conversation. You are going to absolutely love it. I know I say that a lot, but I'm telling you, get out a pen and paper, jump in. Coaches, consultants, especially those working in the B2B space, we dig in with so many just amazing ideas, but also specifically just for your business. Priscilla brings this great insight around how to truly collaborate with, those around you, people who you think of as competitors. And this three-step framework that she has, and you'll watch the episode to get it. It's just fantastic, and it really is imperative that all three of those aspects of collaboration are there to make this complete win, and just make the whole thing successful. And we dig into this, idea of letting go of, the competition mindset. And we hear that conversation a lot, right? Around, hey, you need to be an abundance mindset instead of a scarcity mindset. And that's absolutely plays into this. But then we get into the tactics of it and the strategies behind it and how to truly pull this off and some of the subtleties that are involved that really make the whole thing work. This idea of letting go of competition and embracing collaboration, or solving problems within your organization or for the organization with collaboration, working together as a team or working with other companies to reach a bigger goal. It sounds like an obvious approach, honestly, just to this thought and this idea of like, oh yeah, that probably is good. And yet so few of today's businesses are truly embracing it. We have the version of, even at a solopreneur or a coach level of, this kind of false collaboration, which is, hey, yeah, let's work together, meaning, I want your audience, or it's a collaboration that is based in, I couldn't do this on my own. I better find someone to help. And neither one of those are coming from a place of strength and where you should operate from with this idea of collaboration. And so as Priscilla breaks these down for us and frameworks and a way to think about all of this, it's just going to help you skyrocket your business. When you go into this, you'll have so many new ideas specifically that she's giving in this episode, but also a way to think about your business specifically and how you could apply the same principles. The whole idea for this show came about because of Priscilla's book, Collaboration is the New Competition. And I just love this core concept of it. And that's what, prompted this. And Priscilla and her book were even on my radar because of the great Andrew McKinney, who is a past guest, friend from my Dallas days, and still to this day. If he recommends somebody, like, I'm going to meet them. I want to have a conversation. And once again, it did not disappoint. This was a phenomenal episode with Priscilla. All right, let's jump in. Priscilla McKinney, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited. And as a fellow podcast host, I'm just going to sit back and make you do all the work, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, glad to do it, and I know that feeling well. It's awesome when you can just kick back. It's fantastic. The speaking of fantastic, Andrew McKinney, just for the audience sake, no relation, but Andrew McKinney, who past guest on this show, amazing connection from my Dallas days, introduced the two of us. I'm so glad he did, and has absolutely raved about you. And when Andrew says, "Hey, you should have a conversation with someone, I just say, yes. Okay.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. And, I say no relation, but it's not because I don't want to be connected to him. He's such a great connector. But people do often make assumptions because we do pal around at conferences, and we often are on LinkedIn, especially commenting on each other's posts and really doing one better for each other. So he is a fantastic connection, and I'm so glad he put us together.
Oh yeah, I am too. And this is awesome. There's so many different aspects that we could go with this conversation that, and I want to dig into several of them that is your expertise from market research and insights in the B2B world. But I really got intrigued with your book, Collaboration is the New Competition, and that core concept that I believe in so much. And we hear talked around quite a bit, and yet the amount of people and companies as a whole, especially, actually embracing this idea is very few for some reason, even though we see the data as supporting exactly what you're talking about. And so I really wanted to have you on around this core idea of solving, complex problems, growing your business, all of these things with a real focus on collaboration and almost, letting go of the idea of competition for the absolute majority of folks, which I think is so important. And so I'm anxious to get a lot of those insights. Give us a, some geography though, too, around, the agency you're running, your insights, what's led you to even see this, core concept and write a whole book about it and, have that out there right now.
Okay. Let's talk about our own local geography. And for me, I would kind of refer to that as the soup you're swimming in, right? This is very localized geography. And that soup, in my opinion, is that everybody is time poor. Ain't nobody got time for that. And we can just, put that on top of everything for sure. Everybody is in some kind of a crunch mode. Everybody is being pressed. They're being asked to do more with less. And, COVID then came in and just kicked that up a couple of notches. And now this one goes to 11. And we're all just kind of scrambling. And I would offer to that kind of, if we look at that as a geography, this is the soup we're swimming in. I would say that there is good news and there's bad news. And the good news is you can't go it alone. And the bad news is you can't go it alone. And so, if you're an optimist, you might say one first or pessimist the other way around. But the point is, I want people to quit seeing this problem that we have of being pressed and not being able to get traction on our brands or our personal influence, whatever it is. We can't do it alone, and so we must collaborate. But unfortunately, so many people have done things in the name of collaboration that were actually not collaboration. And that's where my book comes in.
Awesome. Give me some examples of that, because I can certainly see that. Either it was this false collaboration, hey, I want your audience, or some people hide in collaboration. I couldn't possibly do this alone. I better collaborate with somebody, and neither one is a good place of strength to come from. What are some examples that you've seen?
Well, I'll give you kind of two sets of examples. One is the example of, let me give you a framework that will work, because you and I have many examples from boards we've been on or groups we've been forced to be in, dumb committees, and I could go on and on, right? These are not collaboration, but they get billed as collaboration. In my book, I specifically explain the framework for collaboration is simple. You don't even have to read the book in order to get this. So maybe get a pencil out and write this down. But the first thing that is necessary for an actual collaboration to take place is that everybody involved has to have something to win and something to lose. And this is where the first thing gets problematic, is that many times people reach out to you, Jason, you have a podcast. I want to collaborate with you, which means I want you to do all the work, get me on your brand and amplify my voice. And what do they have to lose? Nothing, right? And so that already sets things up, not for a collaboration, but you doing someone a favor. And that's great. Jason, go do people favors, but don't call it collaboration.
Yeah.
And the second thing is that people involved with you have to be willing to show their agendas. No hidden cards. Put them on the table. What am I going to get out of this? What are you going to get out of this? And here you and I are collaborating. I'm a podcast host. You're a podcast host. You should then be able to be on my podcast, right? And we should be able to say, hey, Jason, I'm reaching out to you. Yes, Andrew put us together, but honestly, I'm trying to amplify my voice. I want to get my book out there. Can you help me with that? And when I am honest and I put that out there, then you create a better podcast episode, right? So then we talk about who is your audience and how can I help them, do that. And then likewise, hey, if you were to come on my show, what is that going to look like? Let me tell you about my audience. Let's really collaborate so that it can be good. You can get your agenda done and I can get my agenda done, right? So
and not shying away from that aspect. These things that I couldn't just say that. Why? That's so much better because you have the agenda, and if you feel this shame about having the agenda, that's problem one. And then if you're not sharing that, to me that's way worse than being upfront and stating. I love what you just stated there.
Well, that's the thing you mentioned. That's just like when things get cloaked with weird professionalism or with weird, I'm going to do you a favor. It's like, really? That doesn't sound like an actual favor to me because that's not what I need. And so then we start having these weird feelings around it. And if anybody's been on LinkedIn recently, there's a lot of weird feelings out there, right? Because people aren't being honest. They're not showing their agendas, right?
Oh, yeah. And I had one of those. I'm sure you've had them. I had one of those calls of just a few weeks ago, and his whole agenda, he just wanted to be on the show. And instead of just saying that, it was wrapped in this weird, hey, tell me about your business and stuff. And I promise you, I told him what I do and who I serve specifically 3 different times, and he was still asking me, okay, so you go after agencies and things like that. And I'm like, no, again, I'm talking to coaches. It was the word. I wish I had recorded it. It was such a textbook how not to do something. The only saving grace was that it was like 8 minutes long because I was not participating. That was the only thing. So yes, I'm right here with you.
And then another thing that gets added to that is that for salespeople who really do need to go out and ask, hey, I need a meeting, or I would like to know something about your business, like, would you be interested in this? Unfortunately, what it does is it piles shame on that. Whereas salespeople, listen, we're all feeding our kids. We're all putting our kids through college. We're all wanting to go on a vacation. We're all, whatever it is that you have in mind, there's no shame in that game. And so when people aren't willing to share their agendas, the shame creeps in. And all of that weirdness, like, just completely undoes, all of the relationship. And that's where people feel like, they were reached out to with one particular tone, and then they got what I call the pitch slap. Now I'm just going to pitch you, but that was my intention all along. I really wasn't curious about these questions. I just was basically assigning you homework in order to have a conversation with me in which I could pitch slap you. It's like those LinkedIn, ones that say, tell me what the most pressing issue is facing Little Bird marketing today. I'm like, no, I don't know you.
Exactly. It's such there's such nuance. And the answer to most of it for everyone out there going, okay, well, then what do I do? That salesperson, that person trying to get on shows. So it's like, well, start with putting all this stuff down, all the tactics, all the things down, and just be a human. And even showing up as a human, because all of this is going on, people are going to still have their walls up. They're going to think you've got an agenda. But the more you just keep coming at it with, hey, I'm legitimately interested in what you got going on, absolutely, in the potential to work together, but I don't even know yet, and just keep coming from that place, you're going to win 9 times out of 10 if you just err on the side of humanness.
Right. Well, case in point, this is why you and I are together, is because I led with a lot of giving during COVID. Nobody had money to spend. And so I just went out and did as much as I could, for as many people as I could to the degree that I could do it. And it was just like, go out and try and help. And that brought me to a real connection with Andrew McKinney. And you find your people. Those people keep helping you find the people. So when you do get honest like that, you start finding yourself in these groups. But the last thing I would say, so there's 3 things in this framework for it to be true collaboration. And the last one is that everyone involved has to have a desire to win. And by a desire, I mean like some energy to put into it. They really are invested in not only you winning, but them winning as well. Like it's verve, it's drive, it's energy, it's interesting, interesting thoughts. So just being present, that is so missing in so many relationships.
That's great. Yeah, it's great if I could win. Like if you just hit the first 2, I could win something. But if you don't hit that third, I care so much about this outcome and winning in this way. Yeah, that's all the difference. And I'm sure we've, all experienced those too. I mean, I recently had a potential collaboration, and I stopped it just from, I didn't have number 3 dialed in, and I didn't even know why. And I reached out and was like, I really apologize. I'm not there with this. I have a feeling I'm going to be. I'm not there. So I don't want to limp along. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So to me, that's kind of what you asked, like the geography, that's a super swimming in, that we're all so time poor, and yet we have very large remits that we need to get done. And that is the same for an individual coach who is like, oh my gosh, how do I expand my reach to a global company I might work for? And saying, we're a global company, but the reality is that these small companies are nimble and disrupting things. And so they also need to reach out and collaborate and have an effort that is much larger. So no one is immune to this need for collaboration.
Let's speak to those folks who are in that competition mindset a little bit, that we're certainly the book addresses and that you're, get out of this competition mindset. But it's the business down the street. It's that coach online who, man, they're taking got my exact clients, all the way to that big global company who is certainly thinking, Nike is not going to collaborate with Adidas, right? It's just not going to happen. Today, again, the way we're going, who knows? But we have seen some big, massive collaborations that aren't necessarily, Coke and Pepsi, but they are 2 industry giants who you wouldn't think would collaborate, and they're going together. So how do we kind of start to shift that mindset to get out of that scarcity competition mindset?
There are a lot of good examples of big brands doing serious collaborations. And to be honest, as collaborative and as in your face as Nike is, I would not put it past them to actually reach out to Adidas and do this. So that I'd be here for it all. But we see it in the big brand landscape. Where I don't think we see it enough is in the one-off person and in the small companies. And the reality is that it's so much easier to do it at that stage of the game. And so it is really a crying shame that more people don't do it. But you asked, how do we get those people who are not collaborative, or not collaborating, at least now, to consider it? And I would say, I don't know that I can get someone completely over the hump. I can only get someone who actually has an abundance mindset to learn the tactics that it takes and the good frameworks that will keep them sound as they do it. I don't think I can change the person who has this mindset of scarcity and someone is taking my client. If I win, then you lose. This win-lose binary view of the world, I don't know I could shake that out of someone, but if they could get loose of that, then I could help them.
Yeah, I love that distinction too, because that's usually the side I err on as well. I'm not going to change someone's political. I'm not going to spend energy. I don't care enough. I'm here for the people who are on board. And you want to do that better. and maybe that's a better distinction. The folks who are in the middle, hey, this is intriguing to me. I've only ever seen the competition side, and maybe, yeah, we can open up that crack a little bit into this world. And even that is like, hopefully that happens. But yeah, I'm right there with you on where you spend your energy.
And I have to say, I need to remind people that collaboration, it does not mean giving away trade secrets. So let's kind of go back to this Nike Adidas piece. It doesn't mean they're opening the books up for each other. It doesn't mean they're giving away their competitive advantage. It means for a particular campaign or for a particular time, they could come together for a particular purpose where there can be a win-win. And so it doesn't mean that these collaborations have to be either, number one, long-term, or that they have to be absolute enmeshment. They can actually be a very light connection for a very specific purpose, and they're not giving away trade secrets. None of us can. We shouldn't. We probably signed a lot of, documents that we can't do that. So that's not what I'm asking for.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I think we're designing something amazing for Nike and Adidas here as we do that.
You're welcome.
Imagine. Yeah. And send us the check, folks. But yeah, imagine them coming together for the cause of, this year's insane election that we know is going to happen, and generating a campaign that is, hey, if we can come together, anyone can come together. Like, imagine that going on out there for this common cause. Yeah. And even that, like, that's, everyone wins at that aspect.
Yeah. I love that. So let's break that down, though, for the people I think are not taking advantage of it. So let's talk specifically to your audience of these individual coaches. I was just at a CEO summit, and someone in the circle said, it's lonely at the top. And I thought, that's interesting. I just had a guest on my podcast the week before, and he and I were having a conversation about this. And he said to me, Priscilla, that old adage, it's lonely at the top, that's a choice. And I could not agree more. And that was Sean Nason. So, shout out to him. But I totally agree with that. If you are an individual coach and you are thinking, how do I get a bigger reach? How do I get ahead? First of all, there's no shame in trying to grow your business. Be a salesperson, be a selling president, be aggressive in the market. Really think about where you best serve people, and then just absolutely expound on that. That is the heart of business, and you can do it with heart, but you will toil and do it with heart all by yourself for very meager output unless you open yourself up to the idea of collaboration. And so I would say to an individual coach is they wouldn't not look at a particular person, like say, look at Priscilla. Okay, she's a CEO. She needs coaching. Okay, well, if someone else gets Priscilla, then I lose. No, if for someone else it's Priscilla, maybe it's a different way of looking at it. Maybe I could align myself with that person and Priscilla, and who else? Who else needs to be in the circle? How can I think about more, win, and not this idea of scarcity and not the idea of competition, but the idea of collaboration?
Oh, yeah. I love that. And that's, again, this idea of choice. It applies across the board, because if you let this idea in and you are of this abundance mindset, that's who you attract. That's who you continue to hang out with. And I have those amazing people in my circle. Suzanne Taylor King, right? Like, she's a coach. I coach. We do vastly different things. I have people I know need her, right? She knows people who need podcasting help and all of that. It's like, and it's just this open, yeah, absolutely, like sharing. How do we align? And even in the subtle by yourself way, in meaning what we were talking about earlier on being purposeful, like, hey, let's collaborate and let's work out that detail and all of that stuff. Even before you ever get to that point, hey, how can I collaborate with Tony Robbins if he doesn't even know I exist? Well, his audience has this and this, and I could reach folks who are being helped by Tony Robbins, knowing that there's this little piece that's unique to me and how I help people that I know they need. If they've gotten coached by Tony, awesome, perfect. They're 10 years ahead. So, yeah, I love this idea, what you're talking about.
So let's think about that. You just had this interesting little nugget, this interesting idea. And so then I would say, well, how do you go about finding all the people who've been coached by Tony Robbins? Well, guess what? They all follow him on LinkedIn. So you already know the watering hole. You know where they are, right? So this is about like changing a mindset. And this is what this book offers to you. It walks you step by step, literally. It's a short book, and I just don't go fluff on anything else. This is what you need to know. Throw in a few jokes and then move us all along to the next thing. But it is about expanding your mindset, okay? So for example, if you came together with 3 of your colleagues and you all wanted to grow your business, but you identified where you could leverage it is by growing, people who are interested in Tony Robbins or at one time were interested in Tony Robbins could be your people. Okay, well then let's go on LinkedIn. Let's look at all those followers and let's get a group of, instead of 1 person, let's get a group of 8 of us together and say, hey, Jason, who from this group who follows this, who are you already connected to? Like one degree of separation, right? Who are you already connected to? And then maybe as an 8-person team, we are connected to so many more than just one person. Well, what is the message that we could all put together? Hey, we're a consortium of 8 different coaches. Jason specializes in this. So-and-so specializes in this. We work well with people who have been in the Tony Robbins way, and we're reaching out with blah, blah, blah. If you would like a conversation with 2 of us, please let us know which 2, and we'll connect with you. Okay, well, this is a very laid out, very clear plan, not, oh, I'd love to help you if you need coaching. No, this is so specific. And this is where we get not only the shame in selling out, but we also get the vague, stupid vagueness that I can't stand anymore. What is it that you want someone to do? What is the value that you are offering? And so if the 8 of you can come together and offer that very succinctly to someone, I might look at that and be like, well, I don't need coaching about eating, and I don't need coaching about, growth tactics in the Midwest, but I would need some podcast growth help, and I also might need some mindset, like some growth mindset. Okay, that's 2 people on the list. Now I know what to do, and now you all have put your efforts together, and for less effort per person are reaching a much bigger audience. This is a total win, right? So I just made that one up on the fly, but there are a million ways to skin that cat.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. And I hope that expands someone's thinking, right? It's not like, okay, let me find the 8 people. No, this is the way to think. And again, back to the IP and trade secrets aspect too. Like, you don't have to go into this formal LLC with these folks in order to do that. You can maintain your autonomy in all of that. But here's where we're going to collaborate and work and basically, gain from each person's, experience, reach. Have a weekly call that is, hey, here's our approach, or a bi-weekly call that's, here's what we're going to do, and here's, what did you learn this week? Oh, I connected with so-and-so. That's
absolutely
fantastic.
And that's a really good way, like kind of what you're mentioning is like a content pod, right? So let's say I have 7 other people and we all agree we're going to spend 45 minutes per month helping each other out some way. I've done this a million different times. So I create a meeting. Look, we're going to spend 45 minutes helping each other. We're going to spend 45 minutes talking to each other. That's it. I'm only asking for an hour and a half commitment for the whole ding month, right? And so this is where it just gets clear. And you can be running so many small different collaborations all over your work life and personal life that just absolutely expand your reach and absolutely make your goals, like, they're exponential now. You can actually set much bigger goals. So for example, we could say, hey, we're going to meet the first Tuesday of every month, and it's going to be 45 minutes. We're at a round robin. Everybody gets 5 minutes to talk about what they want me to do for them. I'm going to write 3 of those things down. In this month, I promise I will spend 45 minutes. I'll do the 3 things. I'll spend 15 minutes on each person. Boom. See you next month. Like, everybody makes everything so complicated. This creating an LLC, like you said, let's agree to what this is, and all of this structure over it. Just try the collaboration. Just go right for the collaboration and see if it works.
Yeah, and to your point, that's what's so perfect in this is the specificity. Back to the sales, back to this, back to as soon as you get specific, like you just walking through those details, instantly I just go, oh yeah, Oh, that's how you do it. Because otherwise, this idea of collaboration, even this idea of, oh, getting 8 people or doing this, it's big and huge and overwhelming because you could do that 100 different ways. But the second you walk into that, well, then those people that you approach aren't going to feel that overwhelmed because, hey, here's what we're doing. Here's this. This is, I'm only asking this. I love that. And that's the
Yeah.
key to so much, from organizing
Yeah.
ourselves to something like that.
Well, and then you have to say, let's go back to the collaboration framework, right? So if I'm going to do that, those 8 people, I'm only going to pick people who have something to lose and something to gain. So if they're just kind of in it, well, let me see how it works. No, you're out, right? Then the next thing is showing their cards, the specificity. We got that nailed. But then the third thing is they have to have a desire to win. They have to have the verve. They have to have some electricity around them. They have to have some energy, right? And so if you get those 3 things in alignment, no matter what kind of collaboration it is, you're going to win. But I have a lot of ideas in the book about what this looks like for small businesses, what it looks like for large businesses, what it looks like for individuals. But I'll tell you a fun one that anybody can use that I did and I do all the time. But when I first started, and I literally was just a nobody in the middle of the Midwest, I was heading to London to speak at a conference. And I was so excited to do that. But I really didn't have the money to be doing that. This had to work. I had to get something else out of it besides just this conference. And so what I did was I looked through my network of the highest level professionals I knew. And I had to know them, like I met them somewhere. I actually could ask for a favor. And I didn't look necessarily for people who owed me a favor. Sometimes you got to start somewhere, right? So I tell in the book about the story. I said I was going to London. I'm going to be speaking, but I'm going to stay the week. And I really want to meet as many people as I can. And this is what I said. I'm like, who do you know in London who would like me? You know me, like who would think, oh, that was fun. That was a great time. And would you introduce me? And I will promise you 3 things. Number 1, I will not take more than an hour of their time. Number 2, whatever they decide, breakfast, lunch, dinner, drinks, whatever it is, I will pay. I promise you I will pick up the tab. And number 3, I will not try to sell them anything. And if you think of somebody in your network who is in London who fits that bill, will you please introduce me personally? I was so busy that week. I made relationships that still to this day I work with very strongly. I have made millions of dollars off of these relationships, and I have provided a lot of value to these people. They become close friends, some of them, and then some of them didn't work. Some of them were awkward and just didn't quite go. But guess what? I was only with them for an hour and I paid and I didn't sell them anything. So I fulfilled my agreement, but that was one of my original collaborations that just absolutely blew my business up.
That's beautiful. That's awesome. And you can apply this tomorrow, the next town over, right? You can, it could be a 45-minute drive down the road. Hey, I'm going to be in so-and-so spending 2 days. Who do I need to? Yeah, I love that so much. And it's just like, and the doing the reps part of it, like that, I love that compactness too, because even in the middle of that, the most awkward hour, you're just like, okay, whatever. You don't have time afterwards to worry about it. You don't have time during it. I love that.
No, I was so busy going to the next appointment for drinks. I mean, I went to drinks at the Ritz. I took people to dinner at the Savoy. I went to the Goring. I mean, you name it. If it was on like the top of the top, there was even what's his name? Oliver. Oh, they're not those restaurants anymore, but 11.
Oh,
who was
Jamie
it?
Oliver.
Yeah, Jamie Oliver. Yeah. So I went to all those restaurants. So listen, I did not have a bad time. And here's the thing is that business does not have to be a bad time. It doesn't have to be a grind. And if you think about collaboration and set it up in a way that is interesting to you and fun for you, then that's exactly what you're going to manifest, right? And I'll give you even more specificity for your listeners who are all coaches. So the way you can do that is, let's say you get 4 coaches and you guys are on, 2 different coasts, and, maybe 2 in the middle. Okay, well, great. then Priscilla, who's near Kansas City, is going to have an event, and I'm going to help her by going through all my Kansas City people and get her there. But guess what? Next month, I'm doing one in Portland, and I'm going to ask Priscilla to give me all of her contacts in Portland, and by her own influence, get them there, right? And so you look at that and you break up and you say, everybody use your influence, not just for me, but then it'll be my turn and I will use my influence for you. And it's such a simple setup, and I don't understand why people fail to do it all the time.
Yeah. And it's that nugget of, it's just that, I think the seeds that your book plants that you've given here already, it's those to just, right? Like it's just, that's what's possible because it isn't talked about enough out there. This way of thinking that's both a way of thinking, but also tangible. Oh, I've done it this way, or here's this idea. I think that's huge. And having that blend of those two, that's huge. Let's talk about this idea. And I guess I just kind of got this nugget around, solving problems with collaboration specifically. And we've touched on that in terms of the problem of not enough clients, growing your business, how you do that. Are there examples? Maybe it's more on the B2B side of things that, they're really deep, complex, if we could have solved them here internally, we would have already kind of problems that, how do we start thinking about those in a collaborative way and think outside the company or maybe just to the next department over or something?
Yeah. So let me start in a weird way, but we'll get to exactly this question that you're asking. So a lot of people come to me because I'm a marketing firm and I have this great idea and everybody thinks it's a great idea. And then I ask a little bit about it. And basically one thing I ask is, who did you ask if this was a great idea? And what did you ask, right? And what I find oftentimes as people kind of set up, growth or business ideas or any kind of strategy, is that often they're asking the wrong person and they are asking the wrong question, right? So for example, I have a great idea for business. Well, let me talk to my sister about it. Well, guess what? My sister's very role is intended to be supportive of me, right? And so this is her primary role in life. And so her response is going to be, that's a great idea, Priscilla. You're full of great ideas. You're so wonderful, right? So I have asked the wrong person. Secondly, I'd say, do you think it's a great idea? Well, of course she thinks it's a great idea. Now, if I had asked the right question, which would have been, would you invest $100,000 in this? Now she's going to carefully consider whether or not this is a good idea, right? And so we ask the wrong people and we ask the wrong questions. So let's take that idea. Like that resonates with people. Like everybody's had like this great business idea, right? And you've been kicking it around with your spouse, So, then even with coaches, if you think about it, should I go out on my own? Should I leave my corporate job? Your husband's going to be like, yeah, you can do it. I love you, babe. But maybe you should call someone else and ask them a different question and say, if you were going to lose your pension, would you do it?
Right. Or someone who's a potential client of like, hey, kind of know me. Would you pay me for this kind of guidance? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how much would you pay me for that? Right. So it is an interesting start to the puzzle, but then there's more to it. And I talk about this in the book a little bit more for companies or for larger, more complex issues, how we get collaboration. But it is about that simple two questions at the beginning. And I find with large collaborations on complex issues, we rarely get the right people in the room, right? So let's think about maybe a municipality wanting to solve the homeless problem in their area. Well, when was the last time was an actual homeless person in that collaboration? Someone who has something to gain and something to lose, someone who is willing to put their cards on the table, and someone who has a desire to win. Okay, that's such a simple concept there, but if you take that and extrapolate that to everything else, we don't often have the right people in the room. And then there's other layers I talk about in the book about parity and equity. So it's not just about getting diversity on in the group, which I'm all for. I love it. As a Hispanic female, owner, I'd love to see more diversity in the boardroom, et cetera, and whatnot. But just getting a lot of diversity in the room is not going to solve the problem either. There has to be also equity in the room where who is invested here, who stands to lose and who stands to gain, and who has a voice. And I talk a little bit on the last issue, which is hierarchy. Just for example, as a CEO in my business, I walk in a room, everybody shuts up and I start talking. That is a hierarchy that is not going to work if we are going to solve a very complex problem. I'm not saying get rid of hierarchy. They should defer to me if I make a decision, but they should not be deferring to me when we are in a scenario where we are trying to collaborate on a larger issue. And so go back to that homeless situation. And if we look at that and say, well, at what point is this person going to have a voice in the meeting? Are they going to be the last person to be able to comment? Is their voice going to be heard in the room? Well, probably in that situation, because if we don't think about hierarchy, the leader of that organization is going to start the conversation. And that will push us down a particular road that probably will not solve this complex problem that we have not been able to solve as of yet.
The only way you get past that is really getting specific again, in terms of, hey, this is a Monday morning meeting, State of the Union company. Yes, CEO walks in. Priscilla's like, hey, I need to let you guys know what's happening. Here's what I need from you. Here's what I need from you. Wednesday afternoon, we are having a collaboration to figure out this aspect moving forward. And that comes both from being specific on how that's run, but no matter how specific and the words you use and how many times you say it, hey, everyone's voice is heard, it's not going to be as effective until a month down the road, 2 months down the road of you walking your talk of actually, hey, someone, in accounting came up with an idea and here's what we did with that, right? It wasn't even their job. And now it's, at the forefront of an ad campaign or whatever that is, and to then believe it. And then those meetings get more and more truly collaborative, and you get gold by the end of it.
Absolutely. And, I serve the market research industry. Maybe about 60-70% of my work is in that industry. And what I find really ironic about that industry is that it's all designed in order to listen and give voice to the consumer so that they can pivot more precisely for more profit. That's what the whole market research industry is set up to do. And yet we do not really understand in our own organizations how we are not giving voice to the very thing that would help us make the best decision.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah. It's like, how do we turn those exact tables? How do we bring that? Maybe that's a whole new industry of the being really specific is that internal, market research, as it were, and those insights it's a whole methodology, but also just that mindset to do it and have those insights. I love that. So who are you helping right now with Little Bird Marketing specifically there? And then, of course, I want to make sure that we send people to this book as a step one in so many ways.
Yeah, well, what I'm doing right now with a lot of my clients, and we like to say that all of our clients are a part of our flock here at Little Bird Marketing. And so we have this certain je ne sais quoi, just a little something extra by working with us. And that is that we look for collaborative opportunities for our clients. So what is the age-old problem in business? Getting sales, right? And what is a traditional approach to doing that? We go to conferences. That traditional approach is so expensive. I'm not saying not go to them. I love speaking at them. I think there's something really special that happens when we get face-to-face with people, and it is really important. But what we help companies do is understand if you are going to spend that kind of money at a conference, what are we going to do? how can we expand the win, get a win, maybe? How can we bring more companies together and do a collaborative approach? And we do some things that are pretty complex, but we do some things that are pretty simple, like even throwing a private dinner party before an event starts, where I have people who are not direct competitors, but maybe they overlap in interesting ways. And they are both going out after similar people in the industry. Well, guess what? Somebody, one of my clients wants this head of insights at Procter & Gamble at the dinner. So does this person. But this person wants it for market research. This person wants it for language translation. Well, great. Why do we have to have two parties? Let's all pay less money. Let's get more focused. And let's invite those 40 people to a dinner. And that means that instead of having a $15,000 bill, maybe 3 of my clients have a $5,000 bill for the night. And everybody gets to have that beautiful time together. And so we've been able to arrange really fun and high-end professional events where people come. And again, we don't sell to them during that event. We lead with just a networking type of situation and we build rapport. And that is what people need to do in order to go into the conference season and have these established relationships and be able to connect with people a little bit more personally and make good then on the investment for growth.
It's like all the good things about that conference aspect, right? That, your ideal folks are in one spot. But yeah, just pivot this way. Just think about this approach this way. And yeah, that get those unique aspects. That's been my world for years and years, just the event side of things and so many trade shows and all of that, being a part of that. And it is baffling the money spent, certainly, but also to just be next to, have your booth, your 10 by 10 or whatever it is next to all the other people you're hoping. And you're just like, I hope someone comes by. And my mind just goes like, oh my gosh, exactly what you're talking about. It's like, have a video crew, have a show that is, the conference, right? And you bring people by. Hey, I'd love to interview you on the show. You bring, have this team that's wandering, have them come by. Hey, yeah, just come by the booth. Like all these things that you can so easily and uniquely do to get people, just to have that first conversation or, and be a human there and go, oh, I didn't know. I had no idea you did that. Or I had no idea I needed that.
Oh my
just
gosh.
from a conversation.
You just sparked this amazing idea. So, for example, as a podcaster, you mentioned like you want to have more clients who want to have their podcast and how to distribute, how to amplify it, how to get it produced, how to do all these things, right? This is, things how to do. You need that. That's where your back is itching right now, right? You need that scratch. Well, somebody at a booth needs people to walk into the booth. Who's going to say no to being on a podcast? Not many people. Few, of course. There's always outliers. We don't care about outliers. Right. And so if you think about that, why don't you tag team with somebody who wants to get traffic in their booth and you want to get more people who are more interested in podcasting and who says to you at the end of being interviewed, my company keeps wanting to start a podcast. Can I talk with you? Because that's what's going to happen naturally. Right. And so you look at that and say, well, this is what I need and this is what they need. Let's put that together. And that can happen 1, 2. But if you think much bigger, that can happen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it's with the same principles.
And you can take that approach with a company who's exhibiting there at a trade show. You can take that approach with the actual event itself. Have that, hey, here's a free booth to interview people in the name of this client, this event. This is something we're adding. Hey, if you exhibit or if you get the VIP pass, you get an interview on the show, and it's the same dynamic, then just expanded. Yeah. Give us some action to take to get into your world on here.
Okay.
Certainly the book and how to reach out to you best and just be part of Priscilla's ecosystem, because anybody who's listened to this show, watched this show is going to want to do that for sure.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'd say please embrace the hashtag always be helping. Think about how you can help. If you're going to reach out to me, how can you help me? Because if you reach out to me like that, I'm immediately going to respond in kind. I really believe that, love and help and positivity reciprocate. So having said that, It's really easy to engage with me because my book is only $5 on Kindle. So I think you can afford it. So go out on Kindle. If these things are of any value to you, I will say, I had a publisher come to me and say, oh, yeah, we'd love to take your book, but you're going to need to make it twice as long. To which I said, and our conversation's over. I made it exactly as long as I made my point, because that is what drives me nuts about business books, where it just goes flowery and flowery. No, I got right down to business. The book is in 2 sections. The first part is about the framework for collaboration, like why collaboration and how collaboration. And then the second half is what I call anchors, which are 7 anchors that you can just have at the ready. They're a tool, really, that make you say, how am I not approaching this right? Why is this not collaborative? Why is this not going anywhere? And you could say, will this anchor work? Let me think about it under that framework. No, that's not going to help me. Will this anchor help? Oh my gosh, this just helped me expand my mind and see this problem differently. So it's broken up in those 2 sections. So absolutely, go out on Amazon and look up Collaboration is the New Competition. I would love for you to read the book. You can also check out a little bit more about the book at PriscillaMcKinney.com. And of course, I'd love to be a speaker at your next event. I'd love to talk about that. But I have tons of resources for marketing and strategy over at littlebirdmarketing.com/resources. They are all giveaways, freebies. I do not go harass you when you download them. If they're for you and you know that you want to work with us, you'll reach out to us.
Beautiful. Priscilla, thank you so much for being on. This has been an absolute blast. My mind is just heading in the right direction. I just loved it. It's sparking in the right way. And I'm sitting there going through my head. I was like, oh, wow, I could collaborate with this way. I love it. Thank you so much for being on.
Well, you have to know, if you're a listener right now and you have loved Jason's show, one way that you can collaborate and lead with helping is go out and give him a review, because this is how business works. This is all of the effort that he puts towards giving you this free insight and giving a vignette into other expertise from his guests, is just go out and do the simple thing, which is doing someone a favor. Give them a review or tell somebody about the show. Seriously, it will reciprocate to you.
I appreciate that so much. And we'll see you all next time.
Thanks so much for tuning in and being a part of this show. If you want help creating authority-building video content or even a client-generating show of your own, go to MediaLeadsCo.com and let's connect. I'll talk to you soon on the next Strategy in Action.
This show is powered by Media Leads. To get your next great podcast produced, go to MediaLeadsCo.com.